Hello everyone, welcome to our third cooking video. I hope you've enjoyed what we've been doing so far. This one will not be a failure, unlike the last one, because I've cooked this dish before, so I know it will not be a train wreck. Today we are cooking roasted chicken, we're sauteing chicken with a fig jam sauce with roasted Brussels sprouts and mashed potatoes. As they call it, getting figgy with it. There we go. That's what we're cooking today. Ooh la la. Yes. Mashed potatoes all the way. So you will need, for that, chicken. Have it sitting over here, ready to go. Potatoes, Brussels sprouts. We did some sour cream. This is probably going to go in the mashed potatoes to make it extra creamy. I'll talk about that. I have a story with sour cream later. Talk about that. Chicken stock, you have balsamic vinegar, and in this case you have fig jam, but you could use any jam. I've seen this done before, or I've done it before with like a cherry jam or whatever you want. Fig is just a kind of a more elevated flavor than, say, like strawberry or things like that. And I wouldn't want to do like a grape jam, because grape on foods could be weird. So things that we have going on, I have the oven preheating, so we're going to roast our Brussels sprouts in there. And over here, I have a pot of salted water warming up for our potatoes to go in there, because those are going to have to go and cook for a while, and then we'll work on the chicken while we're doing those things right there. So we're just going to get going with this and start getting this going. So I'm going to chop up my potatoes into smaller little bites, because the smaller the potato chunk, the faster it will cook. Just makes sense to me. Some of this up into nice little bits. It'll also make it easier to mash later. The potato masher, also a good thing to have. But I've done it before with like a slotted spoon or a fork in case of emergency. Got nothing else you can use for that. So while I'm chopping this up, this reminds me, I said earlier I talk about sour cream and mashed potatoes. And my story there is this. Every year, my family does Thanksgiving together in Fort Worth. That's where my aunt and uncle live. And they have the biggest house and the biggest kitchen. So when you're going to cook a lot of food, it makes sense to go to the place with the biggest kitchen. So we go there for Thanksgiving, and in our family anyway, it's kind of evolved into being everyone has a part. Everyone makes a certain thing. It's not just like, mom's in the kitchen and everybody else is doing whatever. We all have our things that we do. And over the years, my thing, / my brother, but really me, thing is to make the mashed potatoes. And so I've become pretty good, if I do say so myself, at making some mashed potatoes. And what's the secret, you say? I will happily share with you, because one family, right? So you're already part of the family, so you should know these things. So my recipe for mashed potatoes, the best that I've made, is cook potatoes like we're doing now, mash them up like we're doing now, and then you add, kind of to taste, several different things. You add to taste milk, you add to taste sour cream, and you add to taste butter, because everything's better with butter. So I'll start with those, and I'll really work on those three, as well as salt and pepper, obviously, because we want it to have flavor. So I'll just kind of go with those three. I'll go especially with the milk and the sour cream first, to get it from a real crunchy, starchy taste to more of a creamy taste or texture, because we want it to be creamy mashed potatoes. And then I'll go in, and once that's kind of good, then I'll go ahead and add the butter to add the creaminess, like the buttery flavor of mashed potatoes, and then salt and pepper. And then we go until I feel it's right, and then I call for my brother, and then he gets to have the final taste, and then we're good to go. So I like our potatoes skins on, just because you get a little extra flavor in there. So I won't peel the potatoes. I'll wash them really good though, but I don't peel them, so that you get a nice flavor. Potatoes are chopped. Now with our Brussels sprouts, you saw me trimming off the ends, and now I'm going to cut them in half, so we get nice halves, and then we can roast them. I have a story with Brussels sprouts too. I don't remember having Brussels sprouts growing up, so I think the first time I had them was as an adult. And I could be wrong. Mom, feel free to correct me. I'm sure you will. But I've tried them rather, as an adult, and realized that they're delicious. And so much so that a few years ago, I tried growing Brussels sprouts on the patio of my apartment. And what I didn't realize was this. It looks like a little baby cabbage, so you're like, oh, maybe it just grows up and goes boop like this. Wrong. Brussels sprouts grow on a stalk, however you want to say it. Hey. So the stalk grows up and flowers, and you're like, oh, that's going to be a giant, massive Brussels sprout. No, that's not it at all. The stalk grows up, the leaves grow out, it kind of looks like a Brussels sprout, and then along the sides of the stalk grow the Brussels sprouts around this way, and they grow that way. I would have never pictured that in a million years. That feels kind of weird to me for a Brussels, for a vegetable to grow that way. But there you go, Brussels sprouts. So I hope you guys have been doing well, staying healthy, getting your work done. It's been definitely an interesting adventure over here, getting used to e-school, things of that nature. It's been really nice to see you guys. Those of you that popped in for our WebEx meetings that we've had twice a week. It's been really good to see you guys and see your faces, and it's been interesting and kind of cool and also kind of weird to see your rooms. I didn't realize so many of you had LED lights around your room up top. I was not that fancy growing up. In college, my friends and I bought white Christmas lights and hung those around our ceiling in our apartment. And that gave us our ambiance. So we prepped all these. We've got pan. We're going to put our Brussels sprouts on the pan. I'm putting them cut side up to start. Just because I want to get that side really, really crispy. And after we put these on there, we are going to drizzle some olive oil, because that'll help them get nice and brown. And some salt and pepper. Okay, these are ready to go. They're going to go in the oven top rack for, 20 to 25 minutes. I'll probably check on them in about 10 to 15. Maybe flip them around a little bit so they can get a little crispy on both sides, but they're going in the oven. Okay, friends, we're going to get this going again. I'm going to turn this off. So, the potatoes are going. They're cooking. The Brussels sprouts only have about 4 more minutes on them, so we're going to get going on the chicken. So I've seasoned this chicken with salt and pepper on both sides, and I've got some oil heating up over here in a pan. So just like in our first video, we're going to put the chicken in there and let it cook. So it's 5 to 7 minutes aside, and we want to make sure we get a nice brown crust on it, but also not have it too hot where it gets really cooked on the outside but raw in the middle. So really be careful of your stove temperature for those things. So here, we're going to put those in and let them get going. So now really all we have to do is wait until the Brussels sprouts are done. When they're done, we're just going to pull them out and let them sit. Potatoes, when they're done, we're going to drain them, keep a little bit of the water to use later, and then put them back on the stove, covered up to stay nice and warm while our chicken finishes up. So I'll cut to when we're doing that. So, half a cup of water. Steam. This is for later to help if we need to add some more moisture to the potatoes. We're just going to take them and pour it out. Let that chill for a second. I've got my butter and sour cream and potatoes. And for this amount, I probably should have done a smaller pan because I've got a lot of room to play with in here, but we're just going to make it work. So I'm just going around and mashing my potatoes. I'm going to check on my chicken. I've already cooked one side, and I flipped it over to the other side. I'm just making sure I lowered the heat a little bit, just because I felt like it was getting too hot. And like I said, I don't want the outside to be cooked, but the inside to be raw. So I flipped it, turned the heat down a little bit, so now we should be good to go. So, looking at the potatoes, I don't really think I need to add too much water to it, so I'm not going to worry about the water. I may add a little bit, just a dab, but not a half a cup. So my chicken, I'm going to pull off. See, we got a nice good color on there, nice and brown on both sides. Make sure let this sit over here for a second to brown all the edges. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use this pan with all the chicken juices and things like that in there, and we're going to make our sauce in here. It's it's a pan sauce, essentially. So we take over the leftover chicken juices and all the nice brown stuff, and we're going to add to that our other ingredients, our balsamic vinegar, our jam, our chicken stock, and a little bit of water, and it's going to sit there and simmer down to a nice kind of sauce that we'll put over it. So back on there, adding in my other things. I have my thing open over here where you can see my dishes. And the second row right there is actually some things my brother made for me on a pottery wheel. My brother really got into pottery in college, and I don't know if he still has one, but he did for a hot second, for a while in college and afterwards, have a pottery wheel, and he would make things on there. So I'll show you that in a second. And I'm going to add, like I said, a quarter of a cup of water. Just a little bitty baby bit of water. We're going to let that sit there for 2 minutes. So, like I said, my brother makes pottery. And so these, I'll put it right here so you can see them. Well, I'll hold them up because you can't really see them. Are some pots that he made. And glazed and fired. And they're really pretty. So there's 2 of these smaller ones. This one has some other indentations on it. Same kind of color scheme. And this one's a taller one. but they're really pretty and they look really nice, and so I keep them here where they can be seen. It's nice and cool already. So, Brussels sprouts, just divvy them up, and finally the mashed potatoes. These look great. Okay, so now our pan sauce is, it's coming together nicely. So we're going to take it, off the heat, and add 1 more tablespoon of butter to it, and just let it go until it dissolves. So we got our pan sauce, and it is done. It is nice and drizzly, etc., etc. So I'm just going to mark that down there. Oh yes, very good. So we take our sauce, get it nice and down here. And we take that and we put it over our chicken. So now we have our delicious meal right here. I hope you enjoy, have fun cooking, keep getting your work done, and I hope to see you soon. Bye guys. Bon appetit.